Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So something a bit different, doing a sketchbook tour. It was all one big tour, but it was a bit too long, so I've had to cut it into two parts. So you're going to be having an intro and an outro to both parts of it. The second half of the sketchbook tour should be up a few days after this one, so if you do like it, then please do like and subscribe, and that will notify you when the second part of the sketchbook tour comes out. Just a quick note that I did want to say is sorry about the sound quality in this first bit. The sound quality on my camera isn't the best, and I was trying to do, so I normally do my voiceovers on my phone, but try and do that at the same time I couldn't get it to sync up properly, so I apologise about that. Hopefully for future times when I'm trying to do this I'll have a better audio sound thing going on, so if anyone's got any suggestions then please put them below, that will really help out. Also, everything you're going to see in this sketchbook tour isn't anything finished or refined. This is my ideas, so where I think of them all, the concepts, the colour studies, all of that, that's what this is for. So if you're looking for refined pieces, I'm sorry, but they're not really that many in here. So that'll be my other videos, but if you're happy to see where all the ideas come from, or just want to have a nosy flick through my sketchbook, then this is the video for you. So we're going to go straight into it and going to cut to some iffy editing skills. Okay, so this is my first sketchbook tour. So this sketchbook I got from W. Smith's, which if you're in the UK you know what it is. If you're not, it's basically like a stationery store, they do a bit of everything. I decorated it with some stickers, so I've got my very first sticker that I tried creating. I've got a sticker from Mini Small. Zeke's Lunchbox, who you'll find out in this sketchbook has a massive influence on my artwork. Nana Williams, and also White Stag Art. I'll have them all linked below, either to their YouTube or Instagram, depending on where they're mostly on. This is a B5 size, so it's not as big as an A4, which is quite nice because this is my first sketchbook I've ever finished like front to back. So it's not too intimidating in terms of size, it made it a bit easier. Okay, let's get straight into it. So this started, you will notice, in February. Now the idea behind this sketchbook was actually just to have a sketchbook to do a sketchbook tour for YouTube, because that's back when I was planning on my YouTubes and I knew that they were really popular, so I thought it would be something interesting and different to do. But I didn't really know where I was going with it, so like these first few pages that you'll see are all just random little things that I was doing to put with my main pieces. So I had a thing for mushrooms, so I was doing lots of mushrooms, and I thought rather than constantly doing it onto the actual paper I was then going to be putting my soft pastel on, because that's what I was using at the time, I thought it would be good to practice drawing them out, and then I can use those to draw into things, so I stop wasting so much paper and constantly rubbing it out and ruining the paper. So that's where these all kind of came from. And I'm tested out watercolour for the first time in years, because before this I've been using mainly pencil and soft pastel. So that was really fun to try and test out something new, but it is a bit messy because I was still getting used to it. This is me testing out some Posca paint markers that my boyfriend got me, and so also got me a nice little pack of them to test out, so that was quite fun. Okay, so now this is where it starts getting a bit weird. So everything on the right side was done before anything done on the left side. The left side was all done at a later date because I had never done a sketchbook where I've drawn on both sides of the paper before. So I wasn't sure how well the paper would stand up because it was only a cheap sketchbook, it's like £5, so I wasn't too sure about that. So everything done on this side was done before anything on this side, and I'll explain that point when it changed when I get to that bit. So this is me testing out some dice, again practicing stuff to put with it, obviously still getting used to the watercolour, very messy. But a couple of months later, in April, I was feeling a bit more confident with my watercolour, and this is a wet on wet technique that I tried doing, which I was actually kind of pleased how that turned out. Again, just practicing, so I would do like insects inside these little like geometric shapes, just practicing them just with fine liners. This was a piece inspired by, oh, I actually can't pronounce the name, I'll have it linked below, but she does this really nice effect, and I found her work where she uses like these little shard effects, and I really liked it, so I decided to try and test that out, again using watercolour. This is me just practicing leaves and things. Again, I put a lot of foliage with my artwork. Now this is a piece that was inspired by Zeke's lunchbox. Now I love her work, she uses really vibrant colours and stuff, and she had this thing where she was doing like the whole discombobulated head, which I really liked, so I decided that I would try my own version with my own little like rose and stuff coming out from it. This is actually the second version of this. I've got a first version which is coming up, because as I said, everything on this side is done later, so the right is going forward and the left is kind of going backwards, so yeah, bit of a mess, but we'll get there in the end. This was my very first baby commission, so somebody commissioned me to draw a portrait, and this is like the second or third rendition of that, which I outlined in blue pencil before I put it onto the main piece. This is me drawing a squirrel. Yeah, really need to work on fur. That's all I can say about that one. I need to practice fur a bit more. This is a page that I've actually used a lot. So one thing I'd noticed is my Curious Roses, which is my signature for everything, always ended up looking like this one. And I wanted to change it up, so I decided to spend an evening just drawing out different positions, and this is something I've gone back to. I've used all of these in different positions, so I've actually added more since then. But this was really a really helpful exercise, which I'm surprised I didn't do beforehand. This was the first version of that split head design inspired by Zeke's lunchbox. I was not very good at this, so I covered up the eye and everything because I just couldn't get it quite right. My proportions on this were not amazing. But it was still a fun little exercise to try. This is me just drawing out some insects. So this is the point in my sketchbook where I started going, actually, I can do more than just like leaves and mushrooms and things that I put with it. Why don't I actually practice drawing the main piece of it, like the insects or the skulls that I'm going to be drawing? So that was the start of this, and I really liked it, and I decided just to do a little sunshine thing to go with the whole pink daydreamy feel of this piece. All of these have actually been used. This one ended up as a painting. These two were still when I was using soft pastel. You can find these on my Instagram. This is me practicing bird skulls for another piece that I was doing. I really didn't like the end result. I may try and do it at a later date, but this ended up being a soft pastel thing and I didn't like it. I much preferred the painted version than the soft pastel version, which is where I started to lean towards painting more than soft pastel. This is me still practicing portraits, so as you can see my skills is kind of getting worse on this page from where it started in the beginning, because I was still getting used to how to use watercolour to paint portraits, but it's not bad. Kind of goes with that weird like skull death kind of feeling. Okay, so this is one of my least favourite pages. So I was drawing out some shrimp. This was ended up used in a final piece, but I didn't really like it. It just felt a bit too kiddish. Yeah, let's just not talk about this one. This one's not great. Okay, so this may not look like much, but this is the start of when I then started painting on this side. So from this point, everything was then going backwards, and then from here it kind of smooths out in terms of timeline. But I was watching Fantastic Beasts 2, which is where these two came from, and I was just doodling them out. And I had realised it had been months and months since I'd drawn any portraits, and I actually missed drawing them. As much as I don't use them in final pieces anymore, it is something that I'd missed doing. So I thought, you know what, sod it, I'm gonna do it, and I don't care if it bleeds through to the other page, you know, I just didn't care, I just wanted to do it. And the paper held up really well, and I was really pleased. There was no references, so it looks really awful, but this page means a lot because that's the point where I started going, you know what, sod it, I'm gonna do this sketchbook for fun and enjoyment, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't look great, you know, and that was really important to me, so I was really pleased with this page. This is another really important page. This is the page where I stopped using soft pastel. So I was drawing out snails because I really wanted to use it. I ended up using this one in a final piece, which was done in soft pastel. But I'd worked the watercolour paint so much that I loved the effect, the way this came out. And then when I did the soft pastel, as much as I liked it, it just didn't feel as good as this. And that's when I decided to be like, you know what, I think it's time for me to stop using soft pastel and try acrylic paints. And so that's what I started doing. This is another piece that's kind of semi-inspired by Zeke's lunchbox, kind of like a plant pot head type feel. I used the remainder of the acrylic paint, which is why it seems a bit streaky, because it was just what was left on my paint palette at the time. So yeah, this is again a very important page for me and what I was wanting to do. Okay, we're back. So I hope you enjoyed that first half of the video. The second half, as I said, should be up in a few days' time. Thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in any of the pieces that I've mentioned, or interested in any of the people that have inspired this all, that's all going to be in the description below, as well as links to my Instagram and my Etsy shop if you're interested. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.